शुक्लां वरदं देवं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये तद्विदितार्थं सिद्ध्यर्थं पूजितो यशुरैरपि सर्वविघ्नच्छिदौ तस्मै गणाधिपतये नमः। ओम श्री गणेशाय नमः। Namaskar and welcome to Hindu Media Conference, second day, third session. We had a roaring time yesterday, 2 sessions, one on news and another on future, on technology and how consumer and technology are going to change media consumption, opinion making and impacting the society. We today have a session, the first session, which is going to see the impact of this technology. This was barely 15 years ago when I sent my first SMS. It was barely 10 years ago when I heard the first time the word blog. Twitter, WhatsApp have been very recent interventions in our lives. But the way they have taken over our lives is incredible. As if we were born tweeting or blogging or Facebooking. There's so much of inundation of it, so much of talk about it. The followers are already in millions. The Facebooking, the page viewing, the retweeting. There's a science now we see, a pattern emerging. People literally sending out waves upon waves of messages, of propaganda, if you please, of ideas, and getting it in reverberation, in echo from all over. I have been a very reluctant kind of user of some of these devices and have found them very addictive whenever I got them into my system. But I haven't been able to make, frankly, this is a confession, make sense of most of it. And this is why I thought there are more like us, and within this space would like to know from those who've been practicing this art very assiduously, very successfully, to know how they do it. And if there is something of a learning for us collectively as a society, because we seem to have taken to it like fish to water. How is this going to change our world? What has been their experience? And what could it be doing for us in future? I'm really pleased and grateful for some very eminent presence. Sri Sadashiv Swami, editor of Hinduism Today from Hawaii all the way. Sri Ashok Chaudhary from DHP. Dr. Conrad Elst, thank you for your presence. Of course, our very own Mr. Kiran Ramsahai from Mauritius, editor Le Matinal. I'm sorry if I'm not mentioning all the names. I call upon the session chair, Kaveri Banzai, till recently the editor of India Today, to come to the dais. Kaveri. Yeah. And her co-panelists, Mr. Sandeep Balakrishnan, Vikas Pandey, Mr. Rahul Sharma, and Nina Rai. This panel of 4 chaired by Kaveri is the best there could have been to talk about this issue. Kaveri herself is now editing an online newspaper, the Daily O, which she launched barely a couple of months back from the India Today group. Sandeep Balakrishnan has been a blogger when the world didn't know about blogging at all, about 14 years back. Well, I heard of the word for the first time 10 years back. He's also a very well-known columnist and also a translator of a book named Avarna. Vikas Pandey, in fact, is someone who has created avalanches. His pages on Narendra Modi, on BJP, on RSS have been making waves on Facebook. So we have him here to tell us as to how he does it. When he started, he's an engineer by profession and works for a leading multinational in Delhi. And we have Nina. Nina comes from an advertising and public relations background, was a student at IMC and then worked for Khaleej Times, writes columns, and has been tweeting for almost a year now, but she's already notched quite a few followers. And we have Mr. Vikas Sharma from US. He's also into blogging. Sorry, Rahul Sharma. My apologies. So I hand it over to Kaveri for a lively session. We're all ears. Thanks.
Thank you. So I'm going to make a very, very brief introduction because I want to listen to them as much as you do. Just stating the facts. Facebook in India, Bharat, has 100 million users, the second largest market in the world. Twitter has 18 million users, making it the third largest user base in the world. We have 900 million cell phone users, which actually is 3 times the population of USA, so that gives you an understanding of how huge this is. Social media clearly has enormous influence here, which was in evidence during the general elections, whether it was the AAP or BJP. The Congress didn't use it as much, and we know how they did in the elections, the Gandhis especially. Steer clear of social media, and I think the voters have steered clear of them. Yes. So I think the general elections and the run-up to the general elections have really been an education for all of us. I think especially in what Sandeep likes to call the mainstream media, the MSM. I think we've learned some hard truths. Some of our narratives have changed. We've woken up to a lot of new ideas. And I think it's about time. We may not always be receptive to the new ideas that the world is engaging with, but it is perhaps our lack of understanding rather than your, people like Nina, people like Sandeep, their lack of persistence or their lack of, knowledge. So I just wanted to make the point that our panelists today have worked often alone. Sandeep, for instance, has worked for 14 years, often facing rejection, often facing just complete silence from people like us. And it's not stopped them from, doing what they believe is right. I was just talking to Nina, and she has, I think in 1 year, she's got something like 52,900 tweets. So I was just asking her, at the end of this session, please do some homework and calculate how many tweets per minute is that of the past year. So I hope she'll do that. And, Vikas, I know, has been working, he's done some amazing work. Because I was editing the magazine, India Today, during the elections, I heard so much about him. And so much about his dedication and the way he would, make sure that this army of influencers and army of social media warriors, as I like to call them, was always at it. And I've often wanted to meet him, so I'm glad I've finally done so. So I really want to listen to our panelists as much as you do, so I will ask them. Perhaps Sandeep would like to begin. Nina? Okay. So Nina will begin, and then, after all their presentations are over, I'll throw a few questions at them, and then please, all of you are most welcome to engage with them. Thank you.
So, good morning everyone, and I hope everyone's having a very good time. So my topic's Twitter, how do you get your followers? This reminds me when you were in school and everybody asked, oh, you had an exam? How many marks did you get? Now the minute someone's on Twitter, the first thing you ask, or the first thing you notice is, how many followers do you have? Because without followers on Twitter, you're like, okay, fine, whatever, you're not worth listening to. There's this perception on Twitter. Anyways, we're going to talk about how do you get your followers. So this topic is a subtopic of the bigger picture in social media, which is learning how to surf the waves of opinion, and I've added that one, and how to create them too, because you can create your own opinion on Twitter. You can have a whole wave of your opinion going on Twitter, and that is why Twitter today is such a powerful medium to express yourself. After me, we'll have other people who cover social media. We have Sandeep and we have Vikas, who will be taking over Facebook and blogging. And before I go into the talk, before I tell you all the tips, Here is something that's really important to know. And can I just out of curiosity, can I just ask how many of you have Twitter accounts here? Okay, so that's quite a few of you. And all right. Okay, so this is why I believe that Twitter per se is important, because if you don't have any followers, you're not surfing. If you don't have followers and you're not surfing, you don't have a presence. No presence, no voice. No voice, no story. There's no one to hear you if you're not out there. Not only on Twitter, what I mean is social media as well. And before we begin to go further into it, this is another question. This is another thing which is very pertinent for our generation. And the question is, why did social media become so popular for opinion generation? It is very pertinent that we answer this question, and this question, the answer to this question, has pretty much, given us all the followers that we have. So Twitter became popular because mainstream media let us down. They failed us. For a lot of us who are on Twitter today, felt that we had no say, we had no voice, we didn't have an opinion, there was no one to hear us, there was no one to hear our side of the story. We felt failed as a country of patriots, as a country of, let's say, Hindus. We felt there was no voice for Hindus and we had to do it for ourselves. Because let's face it, if Hindus don't talk about themselves, if we don't come together and talk about ourselves and the things that are happening to us, to our sisters in Pakistan and Bangladesh, Al Jazeera and all the Christian and the Jewish channel networks are not going to do the job for us. We have to do it for ourselves. So this is one of the reasons why social media, why Hindus began to flock to social media. That is why the term Internet Hindu also came up, because all the aggressive Hindus, all of them who were like, yeah, and it was given by a mainstream journalist, by the way, and she meant it as a dishonorable thing, Unfortunately, now that has become a badge of honor. How things just change. Next. So who were the first Twitterati? And this, and so when we talk about all these people who did not have a voice, who did not have somewhere to, say something. So for example, I think I had a conversation with Sandeep a very, very long time ago. And he said that, all these wrong articles would come. I think I was talking to Sandeep itself, and he said all these wrong articles would come in the newspaper and, you would write and say, okay, no, this is wrong, this is what is right. So the editor would publish it once, he would publish it twice, but after the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh time, there was no one to hear your voice. So where would you go and talk about it? So people came to Twitter, they came to blogging, they came to these places to talk about it, and then these were the first famous Twitterati. So when you see people with a large number of followers, these are the kind of people who said, okay, I can't go there anymore, I don't have a voice, I want to get here. So, then most of the, and they also, by the way, so these are the first people who also went against mainstream media. They were the ones who were, let's say, they also targeted journalists, they targeted channels. And mind you, anybody on Twitter, the Twitterati or blogging or whatever, they're very smart people. They're the ones who got their homework ready. They've got proofs, they've got facts, they've got everything on their side. They've gone and had blogs and they've linked to their Twitter accounts. Everything's out there. Now, this is again very important. Why do Hindus need to be on Twitter? We need to be on Twitter, and this is, I'm not only addressing all of you sitting here, this is going to get recorded and it is going to get out there in the media, it is going to be out there on YouTube perhaps. So again, why am I saying, why do all the Hindus need to be on Twitter? We need to be on Twitter because we need to be heard. Our voices need to be heard. There is no one fighting for us. We have got to fight for ourselves. Al Jazeera is not going to fight for you. CNN is not going to fight for you. BBC is not going to fight your battles. You've got to do it on your own. And there is no organized Hindu media. There is no particular organized Hindu media channel. And that is why you see lone warriors, lone intellectual warriors coming on Twitter. You've got Facebook, you've got all other bloggings, and that is why this is happening. This is the medium that we can use to raise awareness on the atrocities that are happening to us. This is the medium we use to connect ourselves. This is the medium we need to use to link people from across the world. We need to raise awareness for all the atrocities that are happening again in Pakistan and Bangladesh, all the temples that have been broken down. We need to get attention to the Yazidis who are our distant cousins. We need to do this. When I read history, there are 100 million Hindus who have disappeared in the last few hundred years. No one knows where they are. No one talks about it. We've got to talk about it. And that is why we need to be on Twitter, we need to be on Facebook, we need to be on blogs, and we need to discuss this, we need to educate our people. This is like the whitewashed Hindu genocide. It's been shoved under the carpet like it never happened. So talk about it, talk about ourselves, talk about our religion, talk about everything, and let's get onto Twitter. Let's get onto these places so that people, let's say journalists, so that other people, the world, gets to know about us, gets to know about our story, gets to know about what's happened. And these are the reasons why I got onto Twitter, because I used to read so much. And I felt when I used to interact with people in daily life, I used to feel, well, you don't know anything. How come I have read so much? How come you don't know? So I went to Twitter, I went to Facebook, I went to all these places. And then I discovered these individual people from across the world who are on there and who know the history like I have read history. And I was very happy that there are people who are out there and talking about us and doing all the things that we are doing. Okay, so we'll get down to the technical things right now, and that is, how do we do it? So one of the first cardinal rules in Twitter, in how to get followers, is being authentic. Now, what do I mean by being authentic? By being authentic, I mean you stick to who you are. You be genuine. Don't tweet stuff that you don't believe in. Don't pretend, because people are really fast in catching you up, and you'll be caught out if you pretend. People hate hypocrites. People don't like fake people. And if you're authentic, if you're true to yourself, you'll also be consistent in your tweets. Tweet truth. Sweet truth, tweet truth. Always try and speak the truth. Even if you're speaking for your side, speak the truth which is there for your side. Be honest and true to your cause. Again, I repeat that. Be honest and true to your cause. If your cause is Hinduism, be true to your cause. If your cause is politics, be true to your cause. Be true to your politics. Also, the lucidity of your thoughts, obviously truthful thoughts, will also get you more followers. The easier you are, the easier it is for you to express yourself. It'll be easier for other people to follow you. People will not trust you again, that this trust factor comes in again. If you tweet lies, people will not be able to trust you. They will not know whether they can depend on you or not depend on you for the truth. Mischievous propaganda and falsehoods will only beget ridicule. So just be careful before you indulge in all of that. Communicate. Now communicate, chat and discuss. The more you communicate with your followers, the more you communicate with rest of the Twitterati, the tweeple, it is better for you. Because people watch the conversations that are happening. People like to read conversations between people, and they follow you if you're having an interesting conversation. Some believe that you should not be over friendly with the rest of your followers and other Twitterati. I believe that you've got to be friendly with them. In fact, strangely, I have a lot of Twitterati, they're friends with me. Why? Because we went to all these workshops, social media workshops. We went for social media engineering. We attended so many workshops. And I came to know this whole new world of friends. Of course, you've got to use your own discretion, but I sort of don't believe so much into it. And the more you communicate and the better you communicate, it is especially about the subjects that you feel really strongly about, the more followers you will get. And make sure you tweet about subjects that you feel really strongly about. Okay, this is the first and the biggest faux pas. Do not tweet routine. Please, do not do that. I'm not interested in knowing what time you wake up, when you go to bed. And honestly, no one's interested in the color of your baby's poop until it's your Kim Kardashian. No one. Like really. And some people do this. People are saying, what is she saying? But trust me, I've been on Twitter for quite a while, and no, it's not done. Another thing is that if you're tweeting routine or random nonsense, understand that this is the average smartphone that you've got. And so if a person opens a Twitter account, he can only see his Twitter account. He'll see the first only 3 to 4 tweets at a maximum. You don't want to turn him off. You don't want to tweet bullshit and routine and turn that person off. So tweet regular stuff. Tweet things. The cat principle. So we've got 2 types of cats on Twitter. One is a copycat, and the other is a cool cat. So you've got to be the cool cat. What's a cool cat? Always be a cool, independent individual with your own voice. Again, with your own voice. And why I'm saying the cat? Because the cat is a very individualistic animal. It's very independent. It doesn't need people around. Okay, and a copycat. Nobody likes a copycat, even on Twitter. Nobody likes thieves, and nobody wants you to steal their tweets. It's a big turn off, and no one really appreciates that on Twitter. And if you really like what someone is saying, always quote source or quote tweet. If those who are familiar with Twitter or anything, they've got those who are familiar with the iPhones and those who access Twitter on their iPhones. You always have the quote tweet option. Use quote tweet. Never copy tweets. Or if you're using text from somewhere, if you're talking about a particular text or a particular book, do tweet that as well. That where the source is coming from. The political agenda. Now, if you have a political agenda, be open and clear about it. There is no need to be covert about it. In fact, the last 1 year, one of the reasons a lot of people had, some people had more Twitter following than the others was also because they were out in the open about their political agenda. There was nothing to hide about it. Also know that in the last 1 year, and I'm talking based on my last year's experience on Twitter, political incorrectness gets you followers. At least it got you followers in the last 1 year. Especially if it was with regards to secularism or corruption or anti-incumbency, that gets you even more followers. Now, how do you present yourself? Presentation. Always present your views with facts and not rhetoric. Use links to support your tweets, your views, use photos, videos, snapshots. Always support them with facts. People you can only tweet 140 characters. People like to know where you're quoting from, where it is, and if you're talking about something, they want to see the video, if they want to see the photograph, they want to see the blog, they want to read more. And then we have Crime Master Gogo. Talking of snapshots, there is this famous saying on Twitter, and I have heard people repeat this so many times. It's actually the status of one of the most popular Twitterati online. His name is Bar Indian. He says, media is a crime scene, always take pictures. Always take pictures. It's like media is a crime scene.
Right.
Always take pictures. He says always take pictures, always take screenshots.
Right.
Okay. So what that means is that these people, they watch like a hawk. You said this the other day, you said this the other day. So they'll dig these tweets out, they'll take pictures and they'll put the two together and they'll put it across, they'll expose you. So what I mean by Crime Master Gogo is that if you want more followers on Twitter, and this is for everybody, you have to be the jasus. You've got to be the FBI, you've got to dig the past, you've got to put this together, you've got to take a photograph, mark what they said, you've got to take the new photograph. And those who have done that in the past, those who have exposed hypocrisies, those who have exposed the lies, those who've been successful in catching the media crime master gogos, they've had more followers. Now, which subjects get you more followers? There are a few subjects on Twitter that will always get you more followers. Those subjects are current affairs, politics, news, and history. And by history, I mean like history, dharma, it's sort of itihasa, it's combined. Any time, if you start digging out, I'm not going to go on current affairs and politics and news because now, the elections are over. If you were into active politics, if you were into all of that, and if you start putting out political tweets, all of a sudden more people started following you. So I'm just going to go stick on to history, dig out ancient history, dig out your proud heritage, read about books, start quoting, lines from the books. And talk about your country, talk about your people, talk about all the things that are happening, talk about Bharat and the past, the glorious past and all those things. There is this hunger in the newer generation, the young kids, not everybody knows that, that we have, for example, in the Hanuman Chalisa, the distance from earth to the sun is mentioned, but hey, who knew about it? It was only when someone came on Twitter and Facebook and started talking about it that people actually, oh wait, did you know about this? Did you know about this? That became fashionable. That became sort of like the person to follow. So I do suggest that if you have such knowledge, share it. People want to read it. There is a hunger. People don't know. They want to know. They want to feel proud about who, the Hindus want to feel proud about who they were. And they really appreciate when you give them this sort of knowledge out there. Reciprocity. Twitter is a very reciprocal, it's extremely reciprocal. It's not like here that you have friends and friends can betray you, because the kind of balance on Twitter is very different. If you follow people, people will follow you back. If you communicate with people, people will communicate with you. If you appreciate people, if you appreciate that, their tweets, if you appreciate what they've said, they remember to appreciate you back. It's very much a very they'll reward you with everything. And every time someone retweets your tweets, every time someone talks to you or mentions you, that again gets you followers. So make sure that you follow this principle on Twitter as well. Now this is another very interesting way to get followers. Trending. Always participate in trends that you find interesting or that are happening, or that you have something to say about that trend. Because when you're trending, you click on the trend, you'll see everybody's tweets, everybody who said something about it, everybody who has something interesting, some interesting picture to share. By trending, this is how new people will discover you, new people who don't know, who are not your followers. This is how they discover you on Twitter. And a tweet that goes viral, a tweet, a video or something, whatever, if it goes viral, the reach of a viral tweet is really far. And you will have people following you from all sorts of places if you have viral tweets. So make sure you participate in trends. The art of trolling. Now a lot of people feel really bad about trolling. But there's nothing wrong. It's a very subtle art. You don't have to be abusive. You don't have to be, you don't have to be nasty. There is a subtle art of trolling. And this subtle art of trolling gets you a few more followers. And why? I'll tell you why that gets you followers. And when I say trolling, you don't have to be abusive or you don't have to be really nasty. One of the reasons is that people on Twitter really enjoy conversations. They want to read masala, they want to read gossip, something, there was a fight, there was an altercation with these two people on Twitter, did you know about it? They're actually, we have all these WhatsApp groups, and on these WhatsApp groups, if there's like some conversation happening, hey, did you know that? There was a fight between this one and this one called this one, blah, 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 this one exposed this one, blah, blah, blah. So it gets actually very interesting, and people love masala, let's just face it. People love masala, they want chatpata stuff happening on Twitter, and they will follow you if there's like if you troll someone, you gotta do it like with a little bit of dignity. I'm not saying go abuse, because that just falls flat on the face. Okay, Mr. Funny or Mr. Snarky? Snarky is a slang for being sarcastic. So if you want more followers on Twitter, you've got to be Mr. Funny. Funny and witty people get more followers than snarky people or snarky tweets. It's just a basic rule, but a lot of people sort of are sarcastic and they don't understand that the other person doesn't really understand sarcasm. Funny tweets always will get you followers. Being witty as well gets you many, many followers. 24 o'clock. Another interesting principle, another interesting way to get more Twitters. this is the best. Actually, this is one of the better things about Twitter. That it is always awake. It's always happening. It's always alive. And at any single point, at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, at 6 in the morning, at 10 at night, whatever, anytime that you get there, there are people there talking. You know, it's like a party happening. So you can join that party at any time. Those people who want more followers can also make use of apps like Tweetcaster, Hootsuite. You can actually like feed in tweets so that it sort of tweets 24 hours. And why I say 24 hours is important is because let's say you're in India, there is a particular time zone that's working in India. And so if you tweet, let's say late at night where Indians have gone to sleep, there are people from other countries who will follow you, who will see you, and then they'll follow you. So that way you'll have many people from many countries following you on Twitter. If you're tweeting at odd hours even in India. And kind of tweet all the time. That's what a lot of people do. A lot of popular Twitterati tweet all the time. Now, extras and toppings. Like any pizza, even Twitter is more interesting with extras and toppings. And by extras and toppings, I mean blogs, Facebook, WordPress, Instagram, and other accounts that people can have. The more people will read your thoughts, and because remember, Twitter is only 140 characters, and you can only express that much on Twitter. So when people go to your blog, they read what you have to talk about, they understand what you're saying, they tend to follow you more. Also good writers get you more number of followers. And this is my last point. Never buy followers. You can actually buy followers, you can buy people to like you on Twitter, on Facebook and all of that, and I would say that's just a no-go. When the elections are going on in India, there were politicians in Delhi who had more followers in Turkey. How would a politician in Delhi have more followers in Turkey? That's just ridiculous. Please don't do this to yourselves. Never buy followers. You will become the laughing stock of Twitter or Facebook of all social media. You may, however, choose to sponsor yourself. You can sponsor yourself and sort of promote yourself, especially if you have something really nice to say and you want to do that. And now, I want to say a thank you to all the people on Twitter who helped me out, and there are Rabies, Barbar Indian, Tritanic, Kiran, Central Flight. There are a few others who gave me their tips, and these are Twitter heavyweights. I call them Twitter heavyweights because they have large number of followers. That's it. Thank you.
I think that was really instructive. I've taken notes and I'm going to implement all of that, Nina. So thank you for all the secrets of the trade. And I think the larger and the really serious point she made was that, unless you have your own voice, you won't have your own story. And that's the only way you can really change the narrative at large. So I'm now going to invite Vikas Pandey. He's going to talk about Facebook. Vikas, I hope you're also going to reveal all your secrets. I'm taking furious notes.
It's teamwork basically. Hi everyone, my name is Vikas Pandey. I've been active on social media promoting Hinduism and our ideologies in the last 8 to 10 years. I started with Orkut and 4-5 lakh members groups I made. You guys were in Orkut sometime? How many? Just 2-3?
Oh yeah.
It's dead, but anyways. So it was the first social media of India. And then I started Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. RSS, and I support Narendra Modi. A lot of pages are there with 1.25 crore members. And Twitter, I think around 2 lakh followers. I started with Modi ji's official YouTube channel and moved on with a lot of YouTube channels. So, anyways, why I'm talking statistics right now is that what I'm trying to, the points I'm trying to make, I will try to make in this presentation, talk a lot about statistics and what are the areas which we need to focus. Alright, so it's political, but I think what I did a small search on Facebook before coming here. I searched the term Islam. I didn't search Quran or anything else, and I found a lot of pages. Do you know how many, means how much is the population of Muslims in world?
1.6 billion?
Yeah, approximately 1.6 billion. And Hindus? 1 billion, alright. So I did a small search and I found out that there are 5 crore. I just went on searching, and I thought, okay, it's much more than 5 crores. But I said, alright, 5 crore people are like these kind of pages. Name is Islam. So I did not include Quran, Muslim. So just a ballpark figure, can you tell me how much, if I search for Hinduism, how many pages or likes would I find? No, not that. Please. Alright, 1.6 billion and 1 billion. How much must be the difference? Mathematically, if not, then based on your experience, how much it should be?
Mathematically, it would be about 3 crores. But,
Yeah.
but looking at the way you're going, it's probably less than a crore. Less than 50 lakhs?
It's actually 7 lakh. It's just maybe 1% of what we search of Islam. Now, alright, that tells a lot about the commitment with which Islam and Muslims have. But the way I know social media works a lot on content, commitment, and some kind of technology and funding, which Nina also covered a lot. Now, this is a graph of the statistics which I prepared, that this is the population comparison between Islam and Hinduism, and the Facebook like that. Anyways, 1% was not coming, but anyways, this is how the proportion looks like. It's very sorry state. I'm not trying to compare with Islam, but thinking about 1.1 billion people, only 7 lakh members are there in Hinduism. Now, it is extremely sorry state, because I'm active on other platforms also. I didn't want to bring the figure in such a short period of time. But it's very extremely sorry state in case of Twitter and YouTube also. Now, the thing which I have got platforms with more than a crore, but they are not about Hinduism. I've got my restrictions to present Hinduism. They are basically for Narendra Modi or Sri Ravi Shankar, Baba Ramdev, RSS, some organizations, some trusts, some people who are committed, but there is a setup of people who are doing it, setup of volunteers who are doing it. They have got some limitations. They cannot talk about anything else. For example, in RSS page, I cannot talk about random BJP stuff. That is a restriction because it's official. Similarly, there are a lot of restrictions or boundaries where people cannot go. So they are all constrained. We can think about if there is an official news magazine of a particular organization, you cannot talk about everything else, right? Similar goes with the social media also. So this sorry state, let's not take it as a sorry state. I started Orkut, I started making communities because I saw a vacuum. People were talking about Hinduism, people were talking about Hindutva, but they didn't have a platform. Similarly, there is a huge vacuum which can be filled. Different social media platforms need to be created to cater Hindu population. Now, why does Hindu population means content-wise we are rich of content. Means so many thousands of books, thousands of stories, pictures, saying, teachings. Lot of saints who have given their life for the cause, people don't know about it, right? Who is going to tell them? If I do puja, my parents taught me to do puja, or I reached out to certain books and I started studying those things, and that's how it became that. Similar to the story with everybody else. Somebody got guru, somebody got their parents. But do you know why social media has become so much popular than blogs and blogs and websites? Because the news, the things which you like, reaches you on your timeline, on Twitter and Facebook. So we have to enable ourselves, we have to adapt this new technology. The Hindus, the general population of Hindus, the concept of Hindus should reach general population in a massive scale. There is a huge vacuum to be filled. If Salman Khan can start being Hindu, being human, why can't we start something called being Hindu? Why can't we have a project called Project Hindu, which has a lot of content writers, a lot of social media specialists, little fund, and then we can reach out to different population. Yes. I was talking to Mr. Pandey here. He's from Suriname, and he was talking about we have got 27% of Hindus in Suriname, and there's a big elections going on in May 2015, and I wanted my suggestion on the same. Now, why are we not bothered? Why Hindus in India are not bothered about what goes on in Suriname? Why can't volunteers like what we had thousands and lakhs of volunteers collected from social media working for Narendra Modi? Why can't you go and work from there? And similarly, what Nina talked about is Hindus in Pakistan. We don't care. There's no platform to talk about them. There's no platform to talk about gods, for example. Yeah, there is Jai Shri Hanuman. People talk about Hanumanji's photos, his Hanuman Chalisa. Now, she also mentioned that it also mentions the scientific calculation between sun and earth, the distance. This is what Hindu scripture. People don't know about it unless and until their parents or some old guys tell. People don't go. Young generation don't go to puja. They don't feel cool about it. Now, there are people who take ownership of Narendra Modi or belong to RSS, but there is no one belong to Hinduism. We don't talk about Hinduism. There is no big platform which talk about. There is a huge vacuum. There is a huge vacuum to be filled. That is the case study I want to bring in here. So this is which I spoke about. We are rich of content, which are rich of inspirational stories which we can teach our kids and make them feel proud of being Hindu. Why can't the religious Shastra, we used to have Shastra between different rishis and munis, why can't we have it on YouTube, Google Hangouts? Thousands of people watching live, taking notes, tweeting about it on Facebook. People will learn, debate. Those things can happen on platforms like YouTube. There's a very popular, which she also mentioned, Kiran KS starts this Dharma quiz. Very good initiative, but he has got his own limitation. Why can't we have Dharma quiz asking people, sending them CDs, T-shirts once they win the competition on Twitter? It's not, I'm not talking rocket science, it's all there. But there is no one to take ownership. There is no one to fund it. Everybody is doing their own job, everybody has got their own ideology. But there is no one to talk about Hindus at large. No, for example, I also talk about Nepal became a secular nation. Alright, nobody cares. Alright, we are Hindus, we are secular, it should be secular nation. Nobody cared about it. Now, mistreatment of Hindus in Malaysia happened in 2007. It was politicized, it was made as a Tamil issue. No one else was bothered. Alright. So, social media is very, very important tool, and it can make boroughs. For example, I think we all talk about how BJP use social media, but we should not forget about how Aam Aadmi Party use social media to gather volunteers, make boroughs inside, gather so much support. I think we are not taking social media very seriously. It should be taken as much priority as possible. It can do wonders. Not just volunteers, whole generation can be transformed. You don't, people will read about religious stories, the saints which lived thousands of years back, their stories, what great things they did, feel proud to be there, and means feel proud that Hindus had such saints before. Now we see saints, and what was the name of that Baba, fraud Baba? If these kind of people get caught, no, this is something we can say everybody is criticizing Babas nowadays. They are such good Babas, saints which existed, even now they exist. But who will tell young generations about it? That's why I'm saying that you guys are decision makers, you guys are thinkers. Think about it, start something. Alright, little bit technical, not very technical, but what does it take to create a platform on your own? So it is basically a good mix of content, graphics, stories, paragraphs, bullet points, and social media is a small funding, maybe in Facebook, advertisement will be needed, maybe some infrastructure you might have to hire, other than volunteers to do that. Now, such things are being done by many people. You can support them. For example, Kiran Case does that Dharma quiz. You can say that, alright, whoever wins Dharma quiz, I will sponsor t-shirt. Very small amount, 150 euro. But he cannot afford. Why should he afford? You guys can sponsor. You can say, Kiran, do Dharma quiz once in a week. We will sponsor, give them iPad, whatever. So people will participate. It will trend also. Means Twitter trending means people start trending on Twitter even for small things like CDs. Alright, if you send CDs, they will start tweeting and it will trend. Now these are the great cause, small investment, focused. I think that's what I'm saying. People here have to take ownership of Hinduism. It should not be, means people are donating crores and crores for temples, crores and crores for donation. Why can't you spend some lakhs or thousands of rupees for these causes? I think that's it. Alright, I think I didn't bore you much, but please think about it. It's a serious vacuum which they need to fill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the most interesting idea that I heard from Vikas was being Hindu. I think a platform like that is something that can be done very easily. There's so much talent in this room, I'm sure. And you can always hire Vikas, right?
Yeah.
Great. So Sandeep, over to you now.
Namaste. My namaste to Saint and Chiefs. My namaste to the chairperson of the organizing committee, media conference, and the World Hindu Congress organizing committee, sponsors, donors and subscribers of World Hindu News, and people like you who constitute Hindu society and read World Hindu News. Yesterday we heard from the Honorable Umesh Upadhyay ji about media has no color. He started with that. And within 30 minutes the statement was changed that media reflects the power, and power always have a color. Every political party has its color. So from that you can conquer the integrity and authenticity of the mainstream Bharatiya media institutions. Within 30 minutes the color changed. Just like a fish market mentality, that behavior. Do they have any moral ground to operate in Bharat? Next slide. An inspiring story. How many of you love Bajrang Dal as a Hindu patriotic organization? Please raise your hands. So I am director of one of the Pakistan Relief Project in Delhi and Rajasthan, and one Hindu woman from California was having issue. Whatever I do, whatever event, I always generate a press release for the media. And she said that Bajrang Dal, I read something about negative on some US NGO website operated by far-right Christian, and I'm not comfortable putting Bajrang Dal name alongside the US organization names. And I said, okay, I tried explaining her, but I failed. After 1 year, I asked her again to Google Bajrang Dal on World Hindu News search box, and there she go. We got so many good news about Bajrang Dal. Why the act is required? Now she is educated about Bajrang Dal. There is always some reason for any action, and now she understands that how Bajrang Dal is saving women, crime, jihad, and the illegal conversions going on in India. Now she loves Bajrang Dal. You see the impact of reporting and publishing from a Hindu perspective news. Next slide. How many of you agree that there is a worldwide media bias for Hindus? Against Hindus, yes.
Raise both hands.
So I interviewed Franco Esgotnia. He is an eminent editor-in-chief and a Hindu supporter. And the conclusion of the interview was, it's foolishness on behalf of Hindus to expect their Hindu-related media requirement from European, American and other overseas nation media houses operated by Christians, Jews, Muslims and communists. Because it is natural for foreign and Bharatiya media houses operated by non-Hindus to serve their own community requirements. Every media house has its own editorial board ideological position. A Christian media house will serve Christian community. A Jewish media house will serve Jewish community. That's Hindus need to understand. That's what Nina ji also said. We need to build our own powerhouses. And the media houses that we build for Hindus have to be operated, owned by the seasoned, veteran and enlightened Hindus. For the domestic media, where we have owners Hindus, so that foreign media I talk, domestic, Bharati and foreign media, where owners are not Hindus. Now it is the owners who are Hindus. but major Bharatiya media houses owned and operated by Hindus have sold off their Hindu conscience to Abrahamic ideologies and institutions and act as their proxy agents for Abrahamic ideologies for their nefarious agenda for Bharat and Hindus. Their values and ethos are defined by Abrahamic philosophy and not Indic philosophy. Another rebuttal to Upadhyay ji, who yesterday said that it's Indic philosophy that drives Bharatiya media, but it's not Indic, it's Abrahamic philosophy. The ownership editorial board of major Bharatiya media houses suffer from colonial slave and dimitude, decultured mindset. Monetary gains, political support, and confrontation avoidance with Abrahamic institution are transforming them into anti-Hindu mouthpiece. Again, it should be owned and operated by enlightened and veteran Hindus. Understand mainstream media bias we saw, it is biased for religious institutions, temples, social, dharmic, cultural, political organizations, Hindu sacred scriptures, rituals, Hindu saints and seats. The bias is everywhere. About 90% of the news that is published daily in the worldwide media is anti-Hindu that our systems receive every day. Our editor has to spend 90% of the time filtering that news. The past effort in writing rejoinders, complaining and educating editors, authors have totally failed. Ownership of the media was also questioned, and I just talked about that. For example, caricatures of holy cows sacred in Hinduism, Hindus as snake charmers, Sita Agni Pariksha and Karwa Chauth is being represented as operation against women. Projection of Hindu festivals like waste of milk on Shivratri. Firewalling Hindu, dharmic, social and cultural organization news. Projection of patriotic Hindu organization and leaders as extremists. Campaign against Bajrang Dal, Shri Ram Sene. Even I saw one of the news in the Balasaheb Thackeray was mentioned that some extremist, from Mumbai passed away, and I was so disappointed to see that. Most of the foreign media houses get their news feed and philosophical guidance from India Bharatiya media houses. So it's a very shameful and disappointing, the work Bharatiya media houses, some of them are doing. They are misguiding the foreign media houses also. Hindu Saint and Saint campaign against Puri Shankaracharya. So they are basically FBI, CIA, police, everything they are doing. The media is not no longer media. We saw the determinants. So Bharatiya foreign houses operated by non-Hindus like Fox. There is no scope that we can approach, and they will support the Hindu cause. Owned by Hindus, and those who are having Hindu owners have been sold out to Abrahamic ideologies. The interview also said that there is a top to down order in those media houses owned by Hindus but are sold to Abrahamic ideologies, from publishing team, philosophy, editorial board till journalist. Everybody has to follow the single line of the total top owner of the media house, or they are fired. The BBC journalist was working in Kashmir when Hindus were getting killed, women were getting raped, and he was so pissed off to witness that, and he said that I want to publish something about Hindus. He got a call from BBC London office. You want to get fired today? You do publish on your own, become a freelancer journalist. We have a position pro-Muslim for the Kashmiri actions going on. That's the situation. Bharat-based Hindu-owned media, that's the editorial and board. There is scope for improvement. They need to come up with a course. So one inspiration action, Bharatiya and global media, of Honorable Prime Minister of Bharat, Shri Narendra Modi. Post Godhra Sabarmati train killing, Bharatiya and global media left no stone unturned in defaming Honorable PM Narendra Modi, G and associate. He realized and accepted the presenting facts that a proxy agents of Abrahamic ideologies and institutions will no longer help Hindus and Bharat. He started his own powerhouse of media, social media. Some of the associates just talked about, and now he is for today's Bharat PM. So similarly, global Hindu society should research, design, develop their own media houses, and they should have sustainable project mutually exclusive of political power operating Bharat and elsewhere. As in democracy, today is a good political day, tomorrow it can be a bad political day. And many of these speeches, Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji you can infer that he supports Hindu projects, but it's up to the Hindu society to come up with research, design and solution models. The Global Hindu Foundation initiated the project for the Alternate Media Development Program in the 2-tier phase. It's an integrated program, and tier 1 is training layer, qualified training in media personal development with names, nuisance, and it's basically teaching aid and seminars specific to cultural and civilization inputs. So we plan to do seminars, conferences for the Hindus worldwide, and publish book research material that will be passed on to the media institutions, training, education institutions where journalists get training from a Hindu perspective. Second is the establishment of small media outlet for personal training. That's what we have. The Global Hindu News provides syndicated news feed to the World Hindu News and other media houses. The World Hindu News Snapshot, it's a project envisioned by World Hindu Foundation and realized under Global Hindu Foundation. Swami Vigyananji, by the blessings of Swami Vigyananji and strategic guidance of Rajiv Vermaji. Operated by US-based World Hindu News Company, a nodal company that manages and operates the portals, paid professional staff. We have eminent Hindu intellectuals, composed editorial board, technical team, research team, publishes news that impact Hindus at social, cultural, geopolitical, dharmic levels, online publications, for a leading Hindu news company. Current subscribers we have 100,000, which include the ecosystem of Twitter, Facebook, web readership. Current US subscribers 20,000. And September 2014, Google Analytics report 3 million user hits we received within 1 year, within 9 months of operations. Current US journalist subscribers 10,000, Bhartiya 12,000. Internationally, we send monthly subscriptions to journalists. World Hindu News database contain contacts of local, regional, national and international Hindu group leaders of cultural organizations, and its ever increasing database. Support news requirement of hundreds of Hindu organizations in America, Europe, Asia Pacific, Australia, Bharat. As our brother Vikas said, there is a gap. That's the gap we are going to fill by World Hindu News worldwide. Next 2 years, 1 million subscribers globally and 200K in North American region. The growth is directly proportional to the support from the Hindu society. We have the machine, we have the intellectuals, we have the legal corporate framework. We need support from Hindu business houses to fund us, sponsor us, and we can raise to that level of a powerhouse Hindu media. That's the advisory board we have. Eminent scholars, Mr. Rajiv Vermaji, President of Global Hindu Foundation, distinguished global Hindu intellectual, scholar and mentor, and Swami Vigyananji, President World Hindu Foundation, towering practitioner, intellectual of Sanatana Dharma, and distinguished scholar on Hinduism and global Hindu movement. That's the supreme body that governs World Hindu News philosophy. Next. That's the eminent Hindu scholars, veteran activists from social, political, dharmic organizations that constitute the editorial board, making it all right news that goes into World Hindu News and news dissipation, publication, reporting. Next. We have technology team, authors, columnist, research team, and patrons. More research can be done at World Hindu News /about us. How the Hindu society can support World Hindu News? There are many ways. First, please submit your news at publisher@World Hindu News. Vishwa Hindu Parishad at 33,000 presence in villages, but we receive news from third party, from BHP. So many offices we have in Bharat and elsewhere. We say two pics and 10 lines, that's our motto. Please send the news. From RSS headquarters, we get news from Chennai and some guy from Karnataka sends. So there is so much activity VHP, RSS and affiliate organizations and non-Sangh organizations do. They need to send us the news to publish. And second is intellectuals. They can join our editorial board, technical team, research team, intellectual as patron advisors. Feel free to write at editor to the editor. Reporter, journalist, become a freelancer, WHN journalist and reporter. Again, you can write to info@World Hindu News. Become a media partner. If you would like to start a regional newspaper in print, online, radio, contact us, and then you become our media partner. The philosophy and ideology our board will decide, and then the business will be operated by you or your associates. Financial support, become a patron, sponsor, subscriber. We appreciate and recommend Hindu business houses, patronship and support for media expansion. And we also thank our subscribers and supporters who operate, proper fuel in this media machine. You can advertise with us on your business with presence in 150 countries. That will, on an Indian area, we have 28 states. It will enlarge your presence worldwide. Dhanyavad. Namaste.
Fascinating, I think, especially the point about educating mainstream journalists. I think I take that very seriously. Now asking Sandeep, please do.
Good morning, Namaste, Hari Om. My name is Sandeep Balakrishna. It's a great pleasure to address this august audience here. And am I audible? Yeah. And extra pleasure because one person from the English mainstream media is here.
I'm really in a minority here today.
All right. So, just a quick technical introduction to blogging. The word blog is a short form of weblog. It's akin to a journal or a diary or a logbook that some of us are in the habit of keeping. And to give a bit of a history of blogging, blogs just started in the mid to late 90s actually, around 98, 99 time frame. And then they quickly grew into a big phenomenon, and literally millions of blogs today on every conceivable topic. Even scientists are writing blogs now. So, all right. So, when blogs began to pick up, they were truly revolutionary because until blogs began, information, mainstream information, how we consumed information was restricted. Both the access to actual information, news, etc. We were more recipients rather than participants or respondents. At the most, could have letters to the editor. Which was like 5 or 6 letters to the editor. Even the so-called venerable Hindu used to carry some elaborate letters to the editor, but that was that. So blogging, they opened up an entire new vista where you could not only be the consumer of news or opinions, analysis, etc., information, but you could be an active participant and a respondent. And the biggest, in my view at least, in my experience of 14 years of blogging, for the first time, there was a space, at least, and I'm talking about this purely in Indian context. For the first time ever, there was a space created, you could create a space for dissenting and or alternate voices which had no outlet in the mainstream media. By blogging, they changed all that in one stroke by individuals taking charge of public discourse. Instead of being mere recipients, you could also react, you could also respond, and you could also counter. And that power was put in the hand of every individual. All you need to do, just set up a blog, start writing. And they were called back then, in those days, in 2001 between 2001 and 3, there's this term came up as independent influencers. As in, you sit behind your computer somewhere there, and what you write, backed by facts, evidence, etc., put it out there for the entire world. That is something that was unprecedented, never happened before. So what that made was it challenged the medium, the prevailing discourse, politicians, ideas, policies, etc. And because the very nature of blog is highly individualistic, it is independent. And if you want to counter something or you want to express your view, you read up. If you want to be taken seriously, you read up, you do your research, and then put it out, and you're not paid for it. I find it amusing that a lot of companies now hire people and pay them to write blogs. Yeah, latest model of Titan watch or whatever. You have, anyway, automobile, new cars. So that's in a different segment. I mean, businesses have to do what they have to do. But in the public discourse or in serious issues, independent commentary, because bloggers and the whole aspect of blogging is very individualistic, the element of passion was there. So unless you had that, it'll be just another blog. I woke up, my mom bet me, whatever. So and then these independent influencers became very quickly. I mean, this happened over 5-6 years. People began to respond. Okay, I can say this from personal experience, which I'll come to a little later. So over the period of time, in the West, for example, we had some prominent bloggers like Glenn Reynolds, who was a law professor in some, I forget which university, and then there was Rebecca Blood, who was herself a former journalist, and Andrew Sullivan, who turned mainstream now. A lot of people like that. And then, because it got noticed, both MSM, mainstream media, academia, they began to take notice of influential bloggers, and they started corresponding with them offline over emails. Oh, this is nice, I hadn't thought of this like that. So that, like Twitter networks have been created, this was a more elaborate blogging network. And they began to find out that bloggers did better fact checking, they kept track of media biases, etc. And then they forced the mainstream media to be careful, and if I'm not mistaken, India Today had done a piece on bloggers, Cyber Cinderellas or something, right? Or Cinderellas of cyberspace or something. Is that right? Yeah. And so the impact was such that almost every mainstream media outlets now began to feature blogs. So the basic point is that bloggers force the mainstream media to level the playing field. You can no longer talk down to us, which is a habit that I've seen in the Indian mainstream media space. That journalists and 5-star columnists, they have a habit of talking down to their readers. Anyway, and indeed Bharat too has a good track record in this thing. A lot of bloggers called out politicians, doublespeak, etc., whatever appeasement, then exposed distortions and lots of dirty tricks of mainstream media. Yeah, so there you go, Kaveri. And I have to mention the case of Chaitanya Kunte here and myself. It's a good case study of mainstream media feeling rattled by bloggers. And how many of you are familiar with Chaitanya Kunte? I should look this side. Yeah. So he's a guy, a blogger based somewhere in Europe, I think Netherlands, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So he wrote a piece criticizing Barkha coverage of 2611, and then she sent him a legal notice, and you take it down, apologize, you take it down, or I'm going to take you to court. He got scared and he took it down, and the entire blogging world is outrage. I mean, what mainstream media journalists don't realize that they took a long time to understand the nature of the internet. One of the things is that the moment you put out anything on the internet, it stays there forever. You can delete it, but it stays there forever. Somewhere it is buried. So the moment Chaitanya got intimidated, he took it down. And then a lot of these bloggers were outraged. They said, how dare these guys do something like this? And he didn't slander her. He just pointed, look, this is not how it needs to be reported. You're helping the terrorists, etc., etc. Instead of responding civilly or putting a comment out there or something, intimidate them, do this or I'll sue you or whatever. So when that happened, replicas of his blog post were posted across all blogs, including mine. And then I wrote a post saying, Barkha, give me a legal notice. So anyway, that was one example of how the level playing field was level. And then there's some impact of blogging on discourse, mainstream discourse in India. Like I said, I think it's a repeat. They have blogs primarily when they were on the ascendant. They have allowed people to bypass mainstream media. And the credibility of mainstream media is at an all-time low. You can count on me. And networked and like-minded blogs, they have resulted in offline support as in groundwork for the right causes. And suppressed stories by mainstream media reported by bloggers. I mean, this as late as 2011 or 12 when the Assam riots happened. That is a suppression of news. And one venerable gentleman tweets saying, tyranny of distance. So, I mean, such a serious issue, you say, that's suppression of news basically. And the big influence of all this thing, social media, blogging, etc., it came like a flood during the run-up to Narendra Modi's campaign, and Vikas' team, I know the kind of work he's done. Let's not go into details. And a bit of personal experience. I started 14 years ago. My domain name now is sandeepweb.com, but back then it was different. And I used to use a free blog service. So it was a basic mix of political commentary, some issues impacting Sanatana Dharma, some combating Marxism, Media Watch. There's a couple of milestones. I don't want to beat my own trumpet, so called out media hypocrisy during that's Ram Janmabhoomi verdict. This is in 2010, and much before that, there's some Rediff journalist called Dilip D'Souza who had written something about the Bombay riots, and that is when he came back, and then my comment space was on fire basically for some 1 or 2 weeks. Height of it. Anyway, so then the real turning point in a sense was how the media distorted the commentary and the narrative on 2002 Gujarat riots. In fact, the Hindu wrote edit, center page edit, where it justified the killing of the 58 Hindus in the Sabarmati Express. It said, why did these caste sevaks have to go there and pray for Ram and come back? Muslims' sentiments would have been. So it is like that. They justified saying, look, boss, you had it coming. So I tracked all that, and I coined this word for called Gujarat Riots Cottage Industry as well. And Arvind is there. You remember those days? So anyway, same thing, and Barka also sent me a legal notice on a different issue, not on this Chaitanya Fountain, much before. And I prominently pasted the legal notice in a new blog post. And I said, I'm not going to take down anything, so they left it at that. And then when I wrote a 2-part series on the 2012 Assam riots, and so Mr. Kapil Sibal blocked my blog. Yeah. So anyway, overall, it's been a nice journey, a very educative, instructive journey for me. And in fact, I think I owe a lot to my blogging or whatever, even if I'm standing here today and talking to you guys. It led me to write 2 books, thanks to a lot of an encouraging audience of my blog. And right now, it's largely dormant because I've moved on to other things. Next. All right, some lessons learned. I used to write very provocatively earlier. Right now, age has caught up with me. So. But yeah, some basic tips is just adhere to facts, do your research, and don't write anything that you can't verify. And always write from a position of strength. And if you want your blog to be popular, widely noticed, etc., you have to write regularly. And do not write for an audience. Don't have an audience in mind. Don't ever have an audience in mind. That is for these business bloggers. Okay, I want to sell a car or something, then that is, you have an audience. This is not that. And anybody bluffs in public discourse, don't be hesitant to call them out. And no personal attacks against people. And over a period of time, now I don't think too many people comment on blogs, but try and respond to every comment. And like in all good research, supplement your writing with references, it will boost your credibility. And you have some like-minded blogs, just link up to them. Namaste. Thanks. And the other good thing, before I forget, that I've had the fortune, thanks to my blogging, is to meet people in person whose research, they were just authors from whose books I've learned a lot, is Dr. Elstier, and my awesome friend there, Arvind Kumar, is there. Yeah. They both know how they've contributed to my blog. Thanks.
I just want to add one more point about Sandeep. So we were meeting in CM's meeting hall in 2010, Sandeep, Gandhinagar. So Modi ji was there and we were sitting, Sandeep was sitting on my left side. So Modi ji just made a reference. अरे एक लड़का है बहुत अच्छा, उसने point लिखा है, his quality is unmatched to whatever I have read so far on some, what was that point about? Tehelka, huh? And his name is something like Sandeep. So such is the quality of this guy. So more
Great. Sandeep, I think the most interesting thing I think you said was, of course, research. But more than that, I think passion and commitment, and the fact that you have to do it regularly. I mean, it's not something that you can slip in and slip out of. So I think that's my takeaway. I will reserve comment on the credibility of mainstream media at an all-time low. We will take, I want to start the discussion on that. But just an announcement, apparently someone's dropped an Apple iPad and it is in the conference kit. I really can't understand it, but something about an Apple iPad which is missing, and someone has to contact Vikas Agarwal.
Vikas Agarwal? Is it Vikas's?
Is it Vikas's iPad or?
Vikas Agarwal, someone's iPad is missing, or someone's iPad has been found. Somebody just came and gave a note saying that make an announcement. किसी का कुछ गिर गया है, गुम हो गया है. So just in case anybody finds something of Vikas Agarwal, please.
So please do
Yeah,
let us know. Okay, so I think I just like to start with one question, and then I'd like people in the audience to ask questions as well. What do you do, and perhaps this is to Vikas and Neena, what do you do when the main war or the main battle is over? I mean, the main battle was, say, that Modi becomes Prime Minister, okay, BJP wins. What do you do once that is over? What is the next step?
For me, see, all the initiatives which I started
Speaking to.
all the initiatives I started are mainly run by the volunteers. So I am facing a volunteer crisis basically.
Yeah. How do you energize people?
Means by letting them meet different celebrities like the people sitting here. We come and meet, and then we make groups, talk to each other.
Can I add something?
Yeah, sure.
If you look at it, the war is not actually over because Rajya Sabha seats, we need Rajya Sabha seats to pass critical laws.
Right.
So right now what the government is doing, what BJP is doing, is that they want to win in certain states where they were weak, and then once we have Rajya Sabha seats from there, then certain laws which are, you can say, Hindu oriented, will try to pass.
Our main focus right now is to bring good work done by Modi government to the normal public so that their expectations are met, saying that the Achhe Din has already come. But the function wise, I'm saying that we are facing a volunteer crisis, which I think now they are all not that aggressive as they were.
Yes. Please, that gentleman, and then Gautam would like to say something.
My name is Ashok Chowdhury. I am the Virtual President, Vishal Parishad Extended.
Is your mic working?
Yeah, I think it's my voice. That's normal voice.
Very soft.
Yeah. I think people have said that how many years you have been on the block. What you started essentially, like to counteract the propaganda that has been there against, you can see the larger Hindutva cause. How do you see a change? I mean, do you see a change? Okay, watching like today we are positive. There's a lot more change happening. Have you done any kind of analysis of what it was then and what it is now?
Yeah, there's been a major change actually. I used to live abroad. I don't know, many people living in India haven't really noticed the change. For 10 years I was outside the country, and when I came back, and even when I used to come back from my holidays, the kind of mindset that I used to encounter was baffling. and the kind of the kind of feeling that ab to kuch ho hi nahi sakta hai, nothing can be done, we're stuck, we're a bunch of losers, we've got losers ruling us, we're losers. This is the kind of mentality, this is what the India was rife with, and I would notice it the minute I would come into the country, because I used to feel the air was thick, it was thick with despondency. It was really thick with despondency, and that was one of the main crucial factors for me to move to India. That I decided that if this keeps happening, and even if I don't move to India and make that little change that I want to make, we're going to be a nation gone to the dogs, or even worse. Truly it was. And so I have seen that change. I have seen that positivity. I have seen people being more, the youth being more energetic. Earlier it was like, oh, this is all, we don't want to do this, we don't want to do this. Sare politician ek saath hain. Now that line, sare politician ek saath hain, it's gone. Hindutva itself, like the values of Hindutva, Dharma, it's also on a rise. It's been a very interesting change. I've definitely noticed it.
Just one point, Neena, then of course I'll take more questions. What do you do with that energy then? You talk about this energy. How do you harness it? Isn't that the big question?
Yes, so there's this energy that needs to be harnessed more, and that's why I was encouraging people to come on Twitter to talk about it until and unless. So, for example, when I used to come to India and find the whole atmosphere is negative, saturated, crimes of women are on a high, women were feeling like I don't even want to go there. The December rape that happened here, the women were petrified. I went and protested. I had women coming up to me and crying and saying, I don't know how I want my daughter to even take the bus. I can't trust my daughter to even take the bus. These are the kind of things that women have personally come to me and cried, and I was nobody. So I decided I needed to do something. So I went on, full, like when I say no holds barred, on social media. I went on Facebook, I went on Twitter, I went everywhere that I could find that I could talk about it. I encourage people to come and talk about it, get on these forums. This is how you have a voice. And when you said how do you energize them, you energize them by letting them come up on stage. I don't have the resources that I can hold them together and we have some sort of a rally or something, no. But these voices are still energized. We have social media workshops. We're still energizing these voices as much as we can in a little way.
मेरा नाम विनोद बंसल है और विश्व हिंदू परिषद की स्वर्ण जयंती महोत्सव समिति का प्रवक्ता हूँ। अभी जो 3 मेन स्ट्रीम मीडिया जो आपने सोशल मीडिया के पार्ट बताए, एक तो ब्लॉग हो गया, दूसरा फेसबुक हो गया, तीसरा ट्विटर हो गया, तीनों के अपनी एक शब्दों की सीमा है। तो नहीं मतलब कम से कम ब्लॉगिंग की सीमा नहीं है, सिर्फ ट्विटर की है, ठीक बात है। लेकिन जनरली फेसबुक पे देखा जाता है कि बहुत ज़्यादा लंबा नहीं लिखा जाना चाहिए, तो लंबा मैंने ब्लॉग पर लिखा, फेसबुक पर और ट्विटर को उससे लिंक कर दिया। ऐसी कोई टेक्नोलॉजी है क्या? एक ब्लॉग लिख दूं और उसके बाद उसकी लिंक दोनों पे
मैनुअली कर सकते हैं, मैनुअली कर सकते हैं।
कुछ ऐप्स आते हैं, कुछ ऐप्स होते हैं, Hootsuite करके एक ऐप आता है, Hootsuite, HOOTSUITE, Hootsuite। आप इस पे अगर एक जगह पे कुछ टाइप करते हैं तो वो आपके बाकी सोशल मीडिया पे भी वो शेयर करता है। So आप Hootsuite अगर देखिएगा, ऐसे बड़े सारे ऐप्स हैं। So if anybody wants to link all of these together or like tweet, or like Facebook at the same time, so there are lots of apps available. Please make use of these apps because it will save you a lot of time, especially because there are a lot of people on Facebook who are not on Twitter, and a lot of people on Twitter are not on Facebook.
Yes.
First of all, may I just do a plug for our great guru over here. I'm a member of the World Hindu Economic Forum Steering Committee, and also we are having a meeting at 6 o'clock of the World Hindu Academic Forum at 6 o'clock. So any of you who are here, please come. First of all, we are beholden to Swami Vivekananda. I mean, he has done extraordinary things. He's a man of extraordinary intellectual stamina. Please, all of you in your whatever small way, support him. He is the most remarkable individual I've met in my long political life. Now, first of all, looking at the quality of the presentations, I think the adversary should be worried, seriously worried. I think this is just the start and there is a lot to come. And I know Vikas's work, I've never met him. Sandeep, of course, has been a pillar of strength, He publishes stuff nobody else will touch, you see. Now, one thing I want to say is something which perhaps you already know, but perhaps we need to make explicit. In all my 45 plus years abroad, I can tell you that the mainstream media abroad is an extension of the foreign chancelleries of these governments. Have no doubt. The foreign policy input into these papers is absolutely huge. I'll give you a small example. I was live on BBC World Service and I used to appear quite a lot at one time because I used to be the BJP Overseas Friends spokesperson. And Musharraf was berating Atal Bihari Vajpayee, calling him a dishonorable liar. So I instantly said, but you are the man who is a proven traitor. You seize power. That was it. I was never called back. The BBC has a policy. CNN IBN over here tried to interview a friend of mine, a journal, and he said, no, you were supporting Pakistan during Congress. Sir, I was under instructions not to criticize Pakistan. So the media is simply not mainstream media distorting. They are actually purposive. They know what they're doing. All of these outlets are extremely suspect. And I remember 1988, Financial Times, Joel Rogeley saying, India should remember that Khalistan rhymes with Kurdistan. So this is a foreign policy input. Now, the technical question for me is, directed particularly at Rahul, there is implied in all that you say an interface between what is happening abroad and how it connects with India. Can you tell us a little bit more? Because this interface in a way translates into numbers and greater spread. How does this work? I know it's happening, but how does this work that we are all then connected in a much more determined way?
Thank you. So this update we got from Hindu Swayamsevak Sangh Karyakartas in United States. They visited Washington DC and New York media houses, and they asked them a single question, that why New York Times and other media houses are publishing anti-Hindu news, anti-Indian news, and pro-Hindu organizational news. So the response of the foreign media journalist was shocking. They said that most of the news feed and the ideological education they receive is from the Indian media houses, mainstream media houses, and they refer that and get educated from those sources. So that's the response they gave. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Thank you. You can go. I am Ram Ohri, author of 4 books and a retired police officer. Now I just
Please hold the mic close.
I just want to
No, it's on.
It's on. I just want to request you or seek guidance from you how best to counter a lie which has been deeply entrenched for decades in the Indian psyche, not only in Indian psyche but also abroad. The lie is that on the basis of recommendations of Justice Sachar and also another judge, it was said that the Muslims are the most deprived and the most poor and differentiated against people. Now this has caught imagination of the media, Indian media as well as broad media, in a big manner. The truth, however, is that Muslims as a community are far ahead of Hindus, and the real poor or the difficult people are those who are living in rural areas. Now, if you look at it this way, the infant mortality of Hindu children is higher than that of Muslims. The child mortality, that is 1 to 5 years, is also higher than Muslim. Look at it. An average Hindu lives 4 years less than an average Muslim. And you also look at it this way, that in urbanization, Hindus are 14% behind Muslims.
Sir, what is the question, sir?
Now, question is how to erase this wrong impression, and it has become so accepted all over India. How to
Yes, Dr. Yes.
I'm running out of time. Furious gestures are being made.
Yes, Dr. Yes.
Can I? Okay. As against the last two speakers, I would like to observe, and I invite comments from all those with experience from abroad, that you see the press abroad, except for the really big ones like the New York Times and so on, are hardly connected with their government's foreign policy. And you see, if they show a bias against India, against Narendra Modi and so on, it is not because they intentionally have this bias. It is simply because all the news they get through the bottleneck of the mainstream media in India is anti-India. You see, if the American government banished Narendra Modi from entering the country, it is not because America headed in against Modi. It is because Indo-Americans pressured the American government to stand against Modi. So you see, generally, the impact of foreign media, as a factor against India is quite limited. You see, for the most part, they are against India because they are told so by Indians themselves. Now, fortunately, with the new government, you see, an opening is possible, and this will be less of a factor. But this has happened for decades.
Just a very quick response to that. The Sunday Times itself, 3 months ago, revealed that every single correspondent in the 1960s was an MI6 agent. This is
an area in which I regret, my good friend Conrad, I disagree. Read the reporting on the Vietnam War in the New York Times. It's all in the archives. These are arm's length but instruments of governance. Anyway.
Swamiji and then Omendra. Yeah. That's it.
I have some more lightweight thoughts. First, Calvary, there's 550,000 minutes in a year, so she tweets once every 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for making my job easy.
I wanted to ask both Sandeep and Vikas to address a question I think is critical to our presence, and that's content. The value of the depth of content. We have been dedicated for some 50 years to content building, and I think in America, not here perhaps, but if you Google Hinduism and you take off the aggregators off the top, we're 1 and 2 or 3. Why? Not because we try to promote our site, we don't at all, because we are dedicated to content building. And I think that's really essential if we're going to have this presence online, whether it's in blogs. And Sandeep, you'll be surprised, I've done a daily blog since 1998, every day. Fantastic. But would you address this idea of the depth and authenticity of content?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I think it largely depends on the topic you're writing. If it's like a regular political analysis or some bomb blast or terrorist attack, I don't see any reason why you need to too much of in-depth kind of a thing. But if you're writing on something like a historical distortion, like, one good example would be that the myth of that Mylapore temple, that church, St. Mary's or whatever church that is. So for that you would need considerable research and a fair amount of depth and supported by lots of historical research, evidence, footnotes, etc. Does that answer you?
No, I would say that it will be great if in any case I can help you in reach wise. I know you have got a lot of content, but my specialty is in reach. So if there is a communication which you can establish, maybe we can have a hangout with many people can come and listen to your thoughts in India as well as abroad.
Hey, Omendra first.
First of all, from this, I can speak for everybody that this was a great panel discussion we had. Every panelist spoke really well, and we go back home educated. I have two questions. The first question is that this is not a BJP conference, this is a World Hindu conference. And for God's sake, we have to orient ourselves. The narrative of this crowd has to be around the Hindu threat, the existential threat that Hindus are facing. So let's not dilute that. To that extent, my first question is that how do we take our fight to the Abrahamics? They are maligning our gods, our ways of life, picking up shlokas from our scriptures and confusing our children. How do you take, chapter 9 verse 5 Quran, how do you take it to the masses? So, one of my friends, he used to tell me that Islam is like an arch. You take out the keystone and it's going to fall. Is there any strategy on social media by Hindus to take that fight to the Abrahamics? Same applies to Christianity. Second question, the mainstream media, all due respect to the lady here, have sold themselves. And please don't mince your words when you say that, because at stake is your survival, right? So why don't we nail them legally? If they are sending us notices, what prevents us from sending notices to them? Just an example to quote, I read a blog on Times of India, spiritual tree, speaking tree, God knows. A Muslim chap writes that Sri Krishna is a prophet of Islam. And I called up one of the friends here. He said, Omi, your thing is not going to stand legal scrutiny. And I wanted to file a case on this behalf. One of my friends I called in America and he said, Omi, you are giving this man unnecessary publicity. Now with this kind of mindset, how do we nail the mainstream media which is out and out destroying Hinduism? Let the panel speak.
Thank you, sir. First point I would like to address. There is, as I told you, that there is no one to take care of Hinduism on social media. In general, there is no one to take care of Hinduism. No one is to take care of or take the responsibility or ownership of spreading good dharmic knowledge through social media to public. There is no organization as such will take care of everything.
I'm not talking about spreading the dharmic knowledge. I'm talking about exposing the.
No. That's what I'm saying. We are not Hindus because there are Muslims who are doing it. We are Hindus because our religion is very good. Okay. So if we can spread that positive knowledge through social media to everybody, all these things will be taken care of. Let us not. My problem here is that we are here because of the thing which you criticize, that we are not a BJP platform, there's not a BJP conference, there's a Hindu conference. Yes. Similarly, we should talk about Hindus. We are more reactive. We are reacting to what others are saying to me. If our fundamentals are clear about Hinduism, all these things will fall apart. If our platforms are built, see, Modi ji is he was so-called being
beings are being killed. Girls are
I'm totally agree. What I'm saying.
Point is taken.
Let us not be very specific. What I'm saying is that if we make such platforms which creates positive knowledge and which is big, something which happened with Narendra Modi, and expose them through them. See, you have got the knowledge, right? He has got the knowledge. Sir already spoke about the knowledge. All these things, if they are put on such platforms, then they will be exposed. And all guys will think that something is again going on against us. You have got the knowledge, but there is no platform to spread it.
No, this doesn't help.
All right. Arvind, we are running out of time. Arvind.
Yeah. I just wanted to make one point that it's not the Indian media that's educating the West. The knowledge is coming the other way.
Law will not help us and does not help us. We filed a PIL 6.5 years ago against such a committee, and there were more than 60 adjournments, and now the matter is in Supreme Court. And meanwhile, the Sachar report has been implemented with a vengeance. In the process, scholarships to 80 crore to children of 80 crore Hindus have been denied totally. 2 crore scholarships were given only to Muslims, Christians and others. Now, the law doesn't help us. Let me tell you.
So we're running short on time.
It's all right. But then second point is that media also doesn't help. We wrote a book ultimately, and that book was sent to all media houses. No one has taken up the case. That book, Majority Report, its first edition has been sold out, and second edition is now being sold.
Thank you. Arvind.
Yeah, I wanted to share our experience. We met the New York Times foreign desk, And the knowledge is not coming from the Indian media. They have an agenda, and I agree with Dr. Gautam Sen that they even the State Department asks them to publish stuff against India. And even the USCIRF, the State Department was controlling Tisa Seselwad, it's not the other way around. So this is something we need to understand.
Just one last comment from there,
Yeah.
and then
I would like to talk about one thing now, how to go forward now. So I just want views and help. No, I think I don't need it. Now views and I need your views and help. And see, we need out of 25 channels, 23 channels in India are directly run by either missionaries or the so-called other.
Question, please.
My question is, how can you help us in the simplest and with least of economic, least of investment? How can we start a channel where we can put up our views and
Last question.
And then
We're coming really short.
Hare Krishna for all the people here. Nice to meet you for all. I am from Colombia, from South America. I have a question for you. There are a lot of temples, and the Hinduism is very big because the yoga, the vegetarianism, and all the things that are making the devotees of Hare Krishna movement or ISKCON or Vrinda is big and growing up. So can you give us some network or some idea to put our temples in a position, maybe a famous position, different things like Twitter ideas is very nice, but for example, do you have a network to the temples in South America to connect? Maybe?
so now it's open to the panel.
So, I want to answer Omendra. I want to tell Omendra, I think this is written in our Shastras. I don't know, I'm not very fluent with Sanskrit. So, the translation of that is, Dusht ke saath dushtata ka hi vyavhar karna chahiye. Please understand this, and this is for all Hindus out there.
Shatam pratishatyam.
Shatam
Shatyam samacharati.
Shatesh, I can't say that. Please understand that. There are people on Twitter, there are people on Facebook who are doing this as well. So please, if somebody is maligning you, fight back, do that, do whatever you want to do that. This is to the old gentleman who asked that question, how do you counter the Sacha committee report? Well, if there is a book out there, get free copies of that to every single buddy who is influential on Twitter, influential on Facebook, so that they can start writing about that book, they can start writing about that committee. Give it to the youth, because only the youth has the power to change. Please do that. I hope that the gentleman is now listening to that, and I hope that solves his question, because if you give it to Sandeep, if you give it to Vikas, if you give it to us, we're going to talk about that on Twitter and spread the word.
Great. Thank you all very much. Now all discussions can be taken to the high tea.